let's say that someone's brought up something 2 or 3 times. You tried reflecting back, you may have said it was later on the agenda. Let's say somebody says, we need to deal with the budget. And the first time they bring it up, you say, great, we're going to get to that about the half hour in the agenda. So we're heading towards it. Great. That stops them. Let's say they bring it up again. And then I say, we're going to get to that, right? We know it's on the agenda. Just wait a little bit. They bring it up again. I can't keep doing that. What they need to know is that they've been heard. So accept, legitimize is the first part of that, which is where you truly accept and legitimize this concern for them. So it could sound something like, okay, so you brought up the budget a couple of times. Clearly, this is an issue for you. And when I think about how this is going to hit everybody's budget, it's going to impact your budget the biggest. So that makes sense. This is a concern, right? Like you really acknowledge that this is an issue for them. It doesn't mean you agree with it. That's not what this is about. It is about letting someone know you get it, you empathize with them, right? Now your choice point is to deal with or defer. And there's not a right answer, right? You try something, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, you try something else. So I could deal with it by altering the agenda. An agenda is something you can consciously deviate from. So I could say, so you brought this up a couple of times. Clearly, this is an issue for you. It is going to hit your budget in a big way. What I'm thinking is let's just move to the budget piece, and then we'll come back to this topic in a little bit. Like maybe that's fine. Or maybe I ask the group, does anybody mind if we bump up the agenda to this part first and let's deal with it? Now, this is where somebody might say, no, we need to deal with this because it's going to have impact to the budget. So we need to handle this part first, right? And maybe that's enough for the budget person to go, okay, I get it. Right? Or I could defer it after I've said, we get it, right? Budget is a big issue. We have a lot of the time on the agenda and we will get there. Right? Maybe that's enough for the person to know that they've been heard and be willing to let it go until we get to the budget part on the agenda. So I could defer it to later. I might defer if it's something that somebody's brought up numerous times that isn't on our agenda. I might defer it to the parking lot legitimately. Right? And what I mean by legitimately is that we're really going to look at the end of the meeting, how we're going to handle this. Or maybe I defer it to an offline conversation because legitimately it is only between a couple people, right? So what that may sound like is, okay, you brought up budget a couple times. Clearly it's an issue for you. And understandably, this is going to hit your budget in a big way. I don't think it makes sense for all 8 of us in the meeting to be involved in that conversation because it's only 2 of you that have control of the budget and are going to be impacted. What I'd like to suggest is that the 2 of you have a conversation about that outside of the meeting and just get back to us with what your recommendation is or your decision, right? That's a legitimate defer. It doesn't involve everybody. A legitimate defer could be, we don't have the expertise in the room for that. Right. So I don't think it makes sense for us all to have that conversation. So I'm going to, right, and here's how I'll defer, recommend that you, or whatever. When it's not, is when it's just a lifeline for you. And we probably all have been in meetings where either we've done this or we've seen somebody do it, where they go, I think that's an offline conversation, or let's put that on the parking lot. And what they mean by it is, and I hope it never comes up again. Because the challenge with that is people get it. So they know that you're just trying to get out of it and they won't let you do it a second time. I will say, as a facilitator, if I'm not sure what to do, I'd rather say that. I'd rather say, I get it's an issue and it makes sense it's an issue for you. I'm not sure how we should have this conversation at this point, or I'm not sure who should be involved in it. I'm not sure we've got the right people. What I'd like to do is at the end of the meeting, let's look at what would be a good next step to address this, right? That's better than trying to use people's time. At the same time, sometimes as a facilitator, I might say, let's start into the conversation. This may be a bit clunky because it wasn't on the agenda, but let's see if we can get some movement on it, right? That's a deal with in an authentic way of, given what I know, given what we're dealing with, let's try that.